Let's start with, I want to request everyone to share one of two things, reflections from part one, that if you were here or online, if you heard part one, please share. Anything that stuck with you, reflection. We didn't get time for question and answers. We'll see if we have some time this time. I'm watchful of the clock. It's 2:32, and Maharaj starts at 4, and he's very punctual. So I will have to hop out of this seat before 4. So, keeping that in mind, so we'll see if we can have time for questions. But in the meantime, let's just go around the room and try to wake up from lunch and share something that struck you during the session number 1. Or if you have a question too, that's fine. If you have a question from the first part that you'd like to raise, we can try to address that for the next few minutes. Yes, Prabhuji. Can you give him the microphone? Because it's being live streamed so people can hear it online.
In the first session, we discussed about no taste in the morning.
Yes, no taste, yeah.
So, I am in the same boat.
You're in the same boat?
Yeah, I don't have taste.
Okay.
The taste is not because of you have mentioned 4, 5, and out of my taste, which I think includes me, is thirst for the temporary. Thirst for the temporary.
Thirst, asat trishna, thirst for the temporary. You find yourself in that boat. Okay. 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 Can everyone please offer a big Haribol to this nice, wonderful devotee who is... It is so beautiful to be authentic and honest and vulnerable, and you're sharing. This is your struggle. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. We value, this is a Sangha. We want to make the Sangha a safe space, as they say, where you can share things that are going on for you, because we're going to make you feel even more uncomfortable as we go along. No taste was just the beginning point. Now we'll get deeper. And the life is a journey of humility, as we see this. It's a meandering journey of humility. And humility is awakened through vulnerability, the ability to be vulnerable. But sometimes to be vulnerable requires strength, right? You cannot just... And it requires trust in the other person or in the Sangha that you share. So you need to have a safe space where you can share your heart. And you need to have trust, some degree of self-esteem, self-acceptance to be able to share one's struggles. Very cathartic to be able to share we're going through struggles. That's one of the most beautiful ways to actually overcome struggles. Because the more you hide struggles, the more they become bigger in your mind. The more you share, the more they become, they whittle into ultimately nothingness, and they lose their importance. So when we share our struggles, they start to become less problematic, and you can laugh at them. So, thank you. Anyone else would like to share a reflection from the first part? Yes, sir.
The one which struck me was the PDF, Pure Devotee Syndrome.
Pure Devotee Syndrome, yeah.
I think.
Did I give it to you by any chance? Was it contagious?
I think it may be, because my case, everybody thinks that once they get started, they feel, oh yeah, we have achieved and get more pure than any other person, even greater than Maharaj or whatever it is. And then we feel like, okay, 2 days is good.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Pure Devotee Syndrome. We have a Mataji in the back.
Hare Krishna Guru, thank you. What I was thinking when you were giving class in the morning, that one sentence, one thing you shared, that if you know how to start, you know how to progress. So that was really, that made me think that, how much we can do it with our Guru Maharaj and Krishna's mercy. We started from their mercy and we can
Progress,
go forward
yes.
and progress. And that was very encouraging. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Krishna.
Thank you for sharing. Beautiful. Namapriya Madhuri. Her name is Namapriya. We should all just be right next to her because she loves the holy name.
How Maharaj gave that name, it doesn't, it is a long way to go. But one thing, I don't know if you mentioned about that, but I've heard all along, is also the indifference. One thing is, like Prabhu mentioned, I don't have the taste, but the other thing is being indifferent.
To Krishna,
Like,
yeah.
I don't even have taste, but I don't care either, So
Yeah.
I think that's really such a dangerous position to be in, and I fear that, because when it's been a long time that I'm chanting,
Yeah.
so even if the quality is not there, it's like we get accustomed to it, and
Yeah.
it's okay to be, like you just develop that indifference. So that's the big fear I have.
The fear that you're experiencing is an expression of your sincerity. Because without such fear, which is very healthy fear, extremely healthy fear, without that fear, we cannot progress. We see this fear in great devotees also. Not saying that you're like Prahlad Maharaj, but Prahlad Maharaj he expresses his fear. He says, Trasto smyaham krapana dussahogra. He's praying to Nrsingadev. Trasta, I'm frightened of material energy. One facet of material energy is audasinya, is a Sanskrit term which means apathy, which means indifference, is what you said. It's just being indifferent to the practice of bhakti. So when we have this healthy fear that you're expressing, it's a very good fear. It's a kind of fear that sincere devotees have. And it's very good to have it. The opposite is not having that fear and just going on with life. Yeah, it's okay. La-di-da Japa. Kish kish ram ram, kish kish ram ram, and it's okay. No, it's not okay. Right? And you know it's not okay. You feel in your heart. And that's beauty. So thank you for sharing your fear around it. We say abhayam is a quality we need to learn. Abhayam. Part of true abhayam is to have bhaya towards material energy. Interesting, no? So Prahlad Maharaj expresses bhaya, trasta, frightened of material energy. When will you call me to the shade of your lotus feet, O Lord? Simultaneously he says, several verses later he tells Nrsingadev that, what's the verse? That Naivodvijay paraduratyaya vaitaranyas, that I do not have any anxiety about where I'm going, because I know that you will take care of me. So simultaneously abhayam, as we look to Krishna because he's my shelter, and bhaya as we face the material energy, or facets of material energy like indifference. So both exist in the devotee, fear and fearlessness. Thank you for sharing. Okay, one last comment and then we'll move on.
Prabhuji, somewhere along the lines, I started feeling like I have to strike a balance between my material life and my spiritual life. So I started compromising. So that hurt my japa and my dedication to my spiritual journey. That's my challenge.
That's your challenge, yeah. We talked about it a little bit earlier, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. It's so enlivening to be in the association of warm Vaishnavas who are very sincere in their journey. So thank you for your association. We'll continue on our journey. And I want to mention, if at time you're feeling tired, feel free to stand up, take a walk around here, and then you can come back and sit down. So, the meandering journey of faith, love, and humility. We've covered so far Adav Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, associating with devotees, what that looks like, and what you gain by the association of devotees, that faith in the holy name and the practice of Krishna consciousness, and specifically of Japa. We talked about Bhajana Kriya, what that looks like, where we start to experience glimpses of peace, glimpses of Krishna, glimpses of strength. We try to practice a little bit with our minds. We don't even realize, when we're just starting Bhajana Kriya, we don't even realize what we're dealing with. It's a monster of the mind that we are just slowly getting accustomed to in the Bhajana Kriya stage. And then we talked about experiencing no taste, right? Why we experience no taste. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains in Bhajan Rahasya that there are 4 reasons we don't have taste. Some people after the class came to me and said, all 4, 100%, it's me. So, we're in good company. We're all in the same boat in one sense. So let's feel validated, We're all experiencing no taste, which is okay. Okay in the sense that we can accept it, and then we try to move forward. So now what's next? Now we recognize we don't have taste. What can we do to help ourselves? These 4 things plague us. Lack of understanding, tattva vibhrama, thirst for the temporary, asat trishna, weakness of heart, hridaya daurbalyam, offenses. Now what do we do? So now, 2 things that are very helpful, or it says the 2 things we should focus on. Number 1, not to commit offenses. Or don't criticize devotees. Just don't do that. Very detrimental. And 2, pay attention to our japa. Today is our journey map is about japa, so we're going to focus more on the japa piece. Pay attention to japa. Why we don't pay attention to japa, why we don't have taste is because of these 4 reasons. And indifference, jadya, laziness, vikshepa, distraction. So these are 3 reasons we cannot pay attention. It's called pramada. Pramada means we cannot pay attention. So the 3 reasons we have pramada or inattention. And so the Japa book, by the way, goes on to discuss, it is very helpful to understand the mind. If you want to pay attention to anything, to your Netflix program, or to your studies at school, or to your work, to pay attention to anything, it's good to understand the mind. And so this much of the Japa book speaks about understanding the mind. By the way, we have 6 or 7 copies here for sale. For those that don't have the Japa book, highly recommended. I am not getting a commission, I promise you. But it's been so meaningful to my life. And I wish that if you would like to grow in your japa, deepen your japa, please consider getting a copy for yourself. You can get it on Amazon too. But the temple has very kindly bought it on my request, so please consider taking a copy. Okay. Understanding the mind. This is where we enter into the anartha nivritti state. So anartha nivritti actually spans everything from bhajana kriya to nishtha, in one sense. Also anartha nivritti is where we have a willingness to say, yes, I am ready to let go of my issues. If we have issues, we're ready. It's like going to the hospital and saying, dear surgeon, go for it. I know it's going to be painful, but go for it. Do what you need to do. I'm ready for the operation. So, anartha nivritti, anarthas are there, but the nivritti part, nivritti is where you see the, oh shoot, 1 second. Aha. You see the broom and dustpan? Or the broom and... Bucket is, I guess, India. They don't use buckets here, but... it's a broom and it's a mop and a bucket. So I wish they use here, I guess. Okay. So the mop and the bucket, the cleaning part, the nivriti part comes when we are ready to be cleansed. So the question I ask for ourselves is, are we ready to be cleansed? Are we ready for those 4 causes of lack of taste to be washed away? Come what may. Are you ready? It's not going to be easy. Surgery is not fun. Oh, give me that anesthesia. Give me anesthesia so I can be totally asleep when it's all happening. I don't even have to know. It doesn't work that way. Open heart surgery while no anesthesia. You ready? The purification is the path of purification. So, the mind is so built. The Japa book especially, but in Bhagavatam there's a section in Avanti Brahman story that explains the workings of the mind. There is no other cause for our pain, not even others. And this is very hard to accept. It's very hard to accept. But others are not the cause of our misery. It's the mind that's the cause for the misery. Jayasuram bhavamivam tam atmana samam manodhatsva nasanti vidvisha, enemy. Rite jitatmano utpate stitat. Prahlad Maharaj again he's talking to his dad. He's telling his dad, just give up this asuric nature of yours. You're angry at me and you're angry at Vishnu and you're just like, struggling, my dear dad. You're in ignorance. Give it up, because there's no enemy. Vishnu is not your enemy. I'm not your enemy. Your only enemy is your own mind. Rite, except for ajitatmana, except for your own unconquered mind, there's no other enemy. But it's very hard for us to accept that. Right? Especially if someone steals my gulab jamun, it's very hard to accept that. Which, by the way, I had a good gulab jamun. It was from Mahaprasadam. It helps to be a guest sometimes. You get the special. The mind unlimitedly is desiring. Unlimitedly wants this, that, the other thing. Wants to go on a vacation, wants to advance in the career, wants to have family time and have beautiful relationships with everyone. And the mind wants to fight sometimes, and is not happy when it's not fighting. The mind wants a nice car. The mind wants, oh my God, the mind endlessly wants. Here's the trick: if the mind is satisfied with all of those desires, it still would not be satisfied. It's the nature of the mind. My dear devotees, we have a very interesting entity within our being that we live with day and night. There was a movie when I was growing up, Sleeping with the Enemy. We're living with the enemy. It's that mind. It's just so interesting. I want to read something. This is from, again, Japa book. That we have no control over our world causes fear and frustration. Yet, this is how Krishna constructed it. The universe simply refuses to cooperate with our false ego. It refuses to align itself with our vision of being the center and to organize everything and everyone around our own conception of happiness. The universe is designed to make us miserable so that we learn. That the mind is not to be taken shelter of. Should I say that again? The universe is designed to make us miserable so that we learn. That the mind is not a place of shelter. The mind is constantly evaluating ourselves and others. Right? Like one devotee was just sharing about PDS. Oh, I'm a very nice devotee now. Look how sincerely I'm chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. And that devotee, look at them, they're half asleep. We dare say this to anyone, but our mind has this running commentary. It's like one of those sports radios that never stop. It's so annoying. I mean, the guy hits, let's say, cricket. I'm not a cricket fan necessarily, but a cricket radio station. One guy bowls. It takes 5 minutes for the next bowl, but they're constantly speaking in between, like as if like so much is happening. There's nothing happening. The mind is like that. Constant evaluation of ourselves. I'm so wonderful. I'm so lousy. I'm so great. I'm so. Oh, how many people like me here? Do you like me? Do you like me? Do they like? They didn't say Hare Krishna. They said Hare Krishna, but with a little bit of frown. It's constantly thinking about evaluating how am I being perceived, isn't it? I learned from Vaisheshika Prabhu. He said, we all are thinking like that. Everyone is thinking how others are thinking about me. So who's thinking about you? No one. The only one who's thinking about is Krishna. The mind is constantly evaluating. And then it's constantly evaluating, okay, when I'm chanting Japa, is it good to close my eyes, open my eyes? Maybe half closed, what's happening? I'm falling asleep. Evaluating what is good, what is bad. The mind doesn't want to let go. Other devotees have such beautiful tilak. Look at my tilak. Other devotees have such beautiful saris or dhotis. One devotee just told me, my dhoti is not good enough to sit on the floor. Or too good to be sitting on the floor, I'm sorry. Too good to sit on the floor. Oh, my dhoti, your dhoti. My hair, your hair. My children, your children. Oh, my child sang Nashinga prayer so nicely. Or his child has sung Nashinga prayer so nicely. My constant evaluation, isn't it? What an interesting entity we live with. By the way, you're not alone. All of us have this. Okay, let's close our eyes. Close our eyes. Everyone close your eyes. Close your eyes. Raise your hand if this constant evaluation is happening in your mind. Okay. Open your eyes now. Most people is happening. So you don't have to see who else is there. Oh, they didn't put their hand up. So this constant evaluation. Something that I've practically observed. When we are sleeping, or we're about to sleep, or when we wake up, when we're horizontal, or when we chant Japa, is when it seems our mind is mostly active and constantly thinking about these kind of things. And then the mind gets into these, if only, if only my wife was more submissive. If only my husband was more caring. If only my children were more Krishna conscious. If only the weather was nicer. If only I was more beautiful. If only I was more young. If only, especially when we look at social media and LinkedIn and those things, they trigger in us all these comparisons. If only I had gone that way in my career, I would have been like that. Man, look at me where I am. My friends, they are vice president, global CEO, and look where I am. Social media makes it worse. So, it is important to understand that this is all the feature of the mind. Now, in the Anartha Nivritti stage, we are starting to recognize the activities of the mind. So first, there are different ways to to deal with the mind. Before I share that, in the Anartha Nivritti, so yeah, I just shared with, some facets of how the mind works. notwithstanding, during the Anartha Nivriti stage, our purpose starts to deepen. We're going to do a session in an hour about why. This purpose is what's going to drive us forward. Remember I said in Bhajana Kriya, we start to get a semblance of what purpose of life is. Now in Anartha Nivriti stage, that purpose starts to deepen. The sincerity with which I look forward to my chanting, eagerness to chant, that's the Nivriti. Like, if I'm eager to chant, that is taking out that broom and really dusting. Along with this, along with that internal desire to chant, there's a deep appreciation for devotee association. We really start to recognize and appreciate devotees. Why? Because we start to recognize the bhakti in their heart. We start to see the sincerity in their heart, and that is very heartwarming. And you want to be in the association of devotees. You want to appreciate the devotees, even though everyone has faults. Who here doesn't have faults? We all have faults. We're natural. We've got a human material body. It's full of faults. Yet at the same time, every person in this room and devotees outside this room, every person has this bhakti creeper that's vibrant, and it's so beautiful. It's so appreciable, because it's to Krishna, when he sees this, Krishna loves it. Krishna, when he sees the sincerity of his devotee, it warms his heart. So much so that he says, I give myself to them. Otherwise I'm neutral. Samoham sarva bhuteshu, na me dveshosti na priya. Ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya. Even if we're chanting, like struggling and chanting and almost sleeping and chanting, at least we're chanting. Why? Because there's some degree of sincerity. I want to do this for Krishna. I may not have the strength, I don't have the awakeness to do it, but I'm doing it for. So when Krishna sees that, he loves it and he reciprocates. In the Anartha Nivriti stage, people prioritize their chanting, the time of day that they chant, the mood in which they chant. They want to hear what is the mood in which I should chant. And they're very vigilant of what helps and what doesn't help. If I take a Japa walk with a friend, if you notice, it's less attentive. If you're taking a walk with a friend, less attentive. So you start to observe what is helpful, what is not, and you start to amp up your purpose, you amp up your sincerity. This is Anartha Nivriti. Okay, that's all on the positive side. Now what I do with the mind. How to deal with the mind. One way is to beat it. That seems almost abusive, like emotional abuse or something. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, in the morning, you beat your mind 100 times with the broomstick. Pow, pow, pow. Not one time, not 5 times, not 10 times, 100 times. At the end of the day, you take your shoe and you beat your mind 100 times. Pow, pow, pow. So what are you beating your mind about? What are you saying? Here's what he says. When the mind says, I am so sincere, and look at that devotee. So you have to beat your mind to not criticize others. Do not criticize others. Do not criticize others. Do not criticize. And think you're very sincere. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's beating the mind. 100 times in the morning, 100 times in the evening, and every day. Whew. By the way, for those that have self-esteem issues, like an emotional, don't do this, please. Because you'll fall into major depression, and we'd have to take you to a psychiatrist or something. Don't do that. So, but if one has the ability to chastise the mind, Just like when you chastise a child, if you chastise the child, you have to make sure that the child is ready to take it. Prabhupada also would do that, make sure his disciples could take the chastisement. Similarly, if we chastise our own mind, we have to be ready that we have to be confident that our mind can take that kind of chastisement. Otherwise, it could actually be a detriment. That's the first one, beat the mind. Then we can plead with the mind. Oh, my dear mind, for so many lifetimes you've been the king of my life. You've been doing whatever you want. Isn't it? You wanted to come to America and here we are. I'm here in America now, like just this one lifetime. Just this one lifetime, let me give it to Krishna. There's one temple leader I know who many, many years has been serving tirelessly one of our temples. And I asked him, so what keeps you going? Like, how can you continuously do this? It's not easy. And he said, I told my mind, look, this one lifetime is for Krishna. So many lifetimes you've done all kind of nonsense. This lifetime, I'm going to give it to Krishna. Nice. Plead with the mind. Please, mind. So in Manashiksha, which is a book by Raghunath Das Goswami, this is discussed. Of how to plead with the mind. My dear mind, please at all, if you wish to have love for Radha and Krishna, take shelter of the devotees of Krishna. Take shelter of Raghunath Das Goswami, take shelter of Sanatan Goswami, Rupa Goswami and his associates, and Swarup Damodar. So he says, please my mind, take shelter of these great devotees. Remember I was telling you Maharaj used to do these Japa retreats in Gitanagari? So in one Japa retreat, we all wrote prayers to our minds. I won't do it now, you can try doing that. You can actually write a prayer to your mind. Let's plead with it. Prabhupada's formula of dealing with the mind is ignore it. Fill your life with service. Pack your life with Krishna. 24/7 you're busy with serving Krishna. That's what the life of the devotees in the temples were when the movement started. They didn't have time to chill out and just relax. It was just constant service. Of course, it's good to have some degree of self-care. You provide some physical, mental break to yourself so you can continue with service, but pack yourself with service, tightly with service. And then finally is to scream. Not just pray for help, to scream for help. I want to share a verse from Manashiksha. So this is Raghunath Das Goswami, again he's screaming. He says, while here on the revealed path of devotion, I have been attacked by the gang of my own lust, anger, and so on. These highway robbers have bound my neck with troublesome, dreadful ropes of wicked deeds. I'm being killed. Cry out piteously like this to the devotees of Sri Krishna, the destroyer of Baka. O mind, they will save you from these enemies. Scream for help. If we don't scream, what are we going to do? We're going to depend on our own strength. Isn't it? We're going to depend on our own strength. And what can our strength bring? We've been trying to be strong for so many lifetimes. And Hridaya Daurbalyam, you see, there's weakness of heart. Raging. We need to scream. Prabhupada said our movement is a crying movement. Is learning how to cry. That's the whole purpose of our movement, learning how to cry. Cry for Krishna. Okay. In all of this, we have two major layers that make us up. We have we are the soul. We are the spiritual being within our bodies. We have the subtle body that's covering us. We have the mind, intelligence, and false ego. Let's talk about the mind specifically. We have the mind, and then we have the body. The body is not us, obviously. The thing is, we lose the body after this life. We got the body, we just happen to be in this interesting body, which, by the way, is it's self-healing, like Maharaj said yesterday, but it's also quite disgusting. If you noticed, every pore of our body takes out some kind of disgusting element. We try to make it good, throw some perfume on and stuff like that, but it's brush our teeth, take a bath, whatever. But in general, it's quite disgusting. So we have an interesting body, we lose it after this, and we take on another birth. What we don't lose and we don't change is the mind. That darn covering continues with us from lifetime to lifetime. So our identification with the mind is stronger than the body. The identification with my conceptions of things, the identification with my feelings. I feel elated. I feel frustrated. I feel betrayed, which is not a feeling, but let's say I feel these feelings. We think they're true, but they're not. It's like the cloud, there's a form of a tiger in the clouds. It's like, you wait for a while and the wind blows it away and the cloud's gone. So we're very invested in this identity of the mind. We think it is us. And part of our process in Anartha Nivritti is to be able to separate the self from the mind, which in practical terms is our ability to recognize our own thinking and distance ourselves from it. The great, in modern life, leadership training discusses that. Some of you may know Brené Brown. Brené Brown is a teacher of leadership and sociology. So she teaches that there's something called metacognition. Any good leader in this world will have this quality of metacognition. How many of you work with technology? So you know what is data? You know what is metadata? What is metadata? Metadata is that which... Huh? Data about data. It defines the data, right? Or it has information about the data. So that's metadata. Similarly, there's a concept called metacognition. There's cognition, us aware of us, and there's metacognition, our ability to think about our own thinking. And so the ability to assess my own mind and how it does all its things it does, and be able to separate ourselves from it is a very important quality, and is a very important, I would say, a feature of Anartha Nivritti. So to be able to ignore the mind, to beat the mind, to plead with the mind, or scream, you need to be able to see the difference. And that's why Prabhupada would harp on it. We're not our bodies, we're not our minds. Say it over and over and over again. And then finally, in this Anartha Nivritti stage, this is going to go on for a little bit, but Jiva Goswami, Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained that, remember we talked about Kutinati? What does Kutinati mean? Duplicity. And Swapratisthasha, which is desire for fame. These two things, you have to focus on these two things actually. That's what they say. And we'll see in the prayers of Raghunath Das Goswami, he focuses on these two things. In the prayers of Manashiksha, he says, "My dear mind, why are you bathing in this donkey urine that's burning you? This donkey urine of wanting, donkey urine of duplicity, of kutinati. And then he says, my dear mind, what is this, how does he call it? Dog-eating prostitute that's dancing flagrantly in your heart as the desire for fame. Whew. Duplicity is like bathing in burning, trickling of donkey urine. Oh my God. Pretty serious stuff, huh? So then he says, why are you bathing in this? Bathe in the nectar of Radha Gandharvika's katha and glories. And then in the others, this dog-eating prostitute, which is a desire for fame in your heart, serve the devotees instead. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, without removing duplicity and desire for fame, we cannot have attentive chanting. We cannot have strong attachment to chanting. Absorption in chanting doesn't happen unless these are removed. So what to do? We can follow Raghunath Das Goswami's message, right? Okay, so some people may feel a little beaten down. By the way, do you feel like this is getting worse? We thought no taste was pretty bad. This is now getting worse, isn't it? Donkey urine, dog-eating prostitute. Okay. We know what to do. Anathanami, we know what to do. We work on controlling the mind. We do all of these things. We're trying. We're trying and trying. Up to this point, there's some sense of humility in the heart. It's not mature yet, though. There's still the problem of feeling that I'm proud of being humble. You know that one? It's called second order pride. Now comes the second order humility. We're going to enter into the, not Arizona desert, but the desert of the heart. 3 I's: impurities, insignificance, and inabilities. These are going to help us get to a place of not superficial humility, but real humility. Trying to control the mind, and we recognize, oh my God, every time I keep trying to clean, it only gets dirtier. It's like cleaning a dark room that's been filled with dust, and you clean and you clean and you clean, and all you see is dust rising, and becomes, oh my God, I should have just left it alone, It would have been better. And so it feels like there's more impurities. You become more cognizant. Actually, what's happening, from an objective standpoint, what's happening is because the devotee is cleaning, and because Krishna has gifted them with deeper visibility to their own hearts, they're more conscious of even the slight deviations from pure bhakti that they aspire for. So their consciousness has become more refined, and so they see more of the dirt. They have the ability to see more of the dirt, and therefore it seems like the impurities are increasing, when in actuality what's actually happening is more purities happening. But subjectively, for the devotee who's going through this, it's like torture. I'm a hypocrite. I pollute the association of Vaishnavas. I come into this, I pollute that. That's how they're thinking. They may not say it, but they think that way, because I'm a hypocrite. I have so many impurities. At the same time, I'm pretending to be a devotee, wearing nice dhoti, tilak, etc., etc. They've come to terms with their own insignificance, that they're really, really tiny. They recognize, they're starting to see, life is very short, very temporary, things easily vanish. Everything that I used to think was so great about me, and I used to have, and I feel proud about it, can be taken away in a flash. Especially when we confront death of maybe our own or somebody else's, and we go, whoa, it's all gone. That's known as, Prabhupada would call smashana vairagya. You see death, you see the crematorium, and you become detached, at least temporarily. You start to see your insignificance. And then this key part here, the third item here, rude awakening of our inability. I have been trying, and I just don't have the ability to overcome these things in my heart. Lust. Highway robbers of lust, they just stick to me. And anger, and greed, and envy, and just, I want to go. I can't. I've been trying. I can't. I just can't. This is a stage which is also known as La Noche Oscura del Alma. It started in Spanish. The dark night of the soul. In the 1500s, there was a Catholic priest. Any spiritual process, if you sincerely apply yourself to that process, very likely you'll go through this stage. It's called the dark night of the soul. There are books written on it, where you've been trying to approach divinity, and you recognize how unqualified you are to come in touch with divinity. And you feel in your heart, oh my God, I'm an offender. I've offended the devotees, I've offended the deities, I've offended the Dham, I've offended the Bhagavatam, and you feel deeply regretful. This dark night of the soul is a place of intense pain and despair. The devotee has reached a situation of their life where they are truly humble. In this place, even if they receive some praise, they know. Whoever may be giving some praise, they don't have any insight into what nonsense is going on here. So for the devotee in this stage, they see praise as poison, and they see criticism as nectar. And even if someone criticizes them, they see, they don't have the full view. They're only seeing a small aspect of myself, and they're criticizing that. This is a quality of the person. And at this stage, they start to experience the shedding of other shelters. False shelters start to go. Especially the false shelter of one's own, I can do it. Ahankara. What does ahankara mean? We say false ego. Break it up. Aham, I. Kara, will do. I will make my spiritual life very good. I will control my life. That deep anartha, that deep distraction or that phenomena that pulls us away from Krishna starts to falter, and it starts to wane, because we start to see, I can't. Rude awakening of my inabilities. Okay. Another quote from the Japa book.
Does this really happen? When?
Yeah, when you've been practicing seriously. It may not happen for everyone, generally happens. There's let me see one second. You see this thing that says some leave? This journey? Why do they leave? Let's listen. It's very important. Please pay attention. This quote is in the Japa book. To be a broken record, there's some for sale. Many devotees struggle with chanting because before they can take shelter of Krishna's names, they have to travel through the desert of seeing the truth about themselves. That they have little sincerity, and no taste, and that the mind is uncontrolled and filled with anarthas, and that they have no power to help themselves. This stage is necessary Because it convinces us that we have nothing to depend on except Krishna's holy name. Are we ready to go through this? This stage is necessary, because it convinces us we have nothing to depend on except Krishna's holy name. Only when we understand this fact can we chant with a full heart. But it is not easy to cross that desert, and some devotees give up before they reach the other side. So, the last point here in the desert said that humiliation precedes humility. Before we can truly be solidly humble, which, keep in mind, what is the next Shashtakam verse we're heading towards? Tranadapi sunichena. That's the real humility, right? So, Tranadapi sunichena is manifest in the Nishtha stage. So, to reach that Nishtha stage, there has to be this quantum of humility. And it preceded by humiliation, where we recognize, I'm three I's. Impurities, inabilities, and insignificance. So now the pathway to enter into the Nishtha stage is being chalked out. Okay. Okay. Now, this seems a little too much. How do you manage to go through this desert without leaving and getting totally discouraged? Right? Many things. Number one is, I like this phrase I learned during my pastoral care education, is it's better to walk in the dark with someone than to walk in the light alone. If we can have someone that is a trusted friend, who can work with us, who can help us to be a space, a beautiful, non-judgmental, non-envious, loving, affectionate space to give us the ability to work through this very crucial stage of Krishna consciousness. That's very nice. There's a nice example in Chaitanya Bhagavat where Haridas Thakur went to the prison house, and all the prisoners were pained by being locked up, and he was going to be locked up, and they were so happy to see him. They said, "Oh my God, you're here, a saint, we get to get devotee association." And Haridas Thakur blessed them and said, "May you always be like this." What? We're in jail. Why are you blessing us to be always in jail? He says, "No, I'm blessing you to always want such devotee association." You see. So what helps us through this desert are close confidants. I was sharing with someone earlier, that Brahmacharya was sharing this verse from Brahma's prayers. Some of you may know the verse. Brahma prays. He made a big mistake with Krishna. He stole the cows and cow boys, and then he prays to Krishna. He says, "Tate nukampam," sing with me if you like. "Tate nukampam susumikshamano bhunjana kritam vipakam ridvagvapurbhe vidadhan namaste jiveta yo mukti pade sadaibak." Brahma says, "I'm ready to receive whatever you have to give me, Krishna, in my life. Bhunjana evatma kritam vipakam," because whatever I'm going to experience is my own, in one sense. Atma kritam, whatever I have done, I'm receiving whatever I have done. No problem, Krishna, you give it to me. But Ridvag Vapurbid, I want to serve you with my heart, mind, and words. And Jiveta yo mukti pade, someone who does that will achieve your kingdom. Now, the word Jiveta, Jiva Goswami explains the word Jiveta means you just stay alive in Krishna consciousness. Just stay alive. So when we're going through this desert, it can be very, very difficult. And tomorrow we're going to chant 64 rounds. We might experience a little bit of desert-like experience where there's no taste. It's like, such a drag to go through these 64 rounds. But what does Jiva Goswami advise? Jiveta. Stay alive. There used to be a song when I was growing up, staying alive, staying alive. So just stay alive in Krishna consciousness. Just stay with the japa process. Magic happens. Even in this stage when you're going through, imagine, look at from Krishna's perspective to a little bit. From Krishna's perspective, you see someone that it's a dark night for them. Yet they are sticking with trying to chant my holy name. How would you feel? You can touch Krishna's heart with this kind of determination to stay alive. You will feel Krishna's reciprocation. Something else that helps us to go through this time is to recognize that Krishna loves me. And to be self-accepting. You know what? I'm a mess. Think about it. I'm a mess. You can say it for yourself, but certainly I'm a mess. And to be accepting of it. Krishna explains to Uddhava in Uddhava Gita, beautiful verse in the 11th. By the way, this verse I've shared with so many devotees because it really gives you some hope and strength to continue on the journey, even though you recognize, oh my God, I have so many weaknesses, I'm not able to overcome them. So Krishna explains, he says, Jata Shraddha Matkatasu Nirvinna Sarva Karmasu Veda Dukkhatmakan Kaman Parityage Pyanishvara. So what does the first verse say? He says, now that you awaken faith in me and my katha, and you've started to recognize detachment from the material world, and you know that any pursuit of asat trishna in this world is going to give you dukkha. You know it. Parityage api anishvara. You cannot give it up. You know it's going to cause you a problem, but you still cannot give it up. What to do? So Krishna then says, Tato bhajeta mam prita shraddhalo dhridha nishchaya jishamanasya tan kaman dukkho dharkamsya garhayan. He says, even tato bhajeta, but you continue your bhajan. Mam prita, and you be happy. Krishna tells Uddhava, be happy and continue in your bhajan. So sweet. And you repent, that's fine. You repent that you cannot overcome your own shortcomings, but Shraddhalur Dhidari, with faith and with conviction and with determination, you continue on. Just like yesterday, enthusiasm, determination, patience. And then to know that Krishna loves us will help us through this journey. The book ends with that message, that Krishna loves you. How do you know Krishna loves me or loves you? He's in our heart. He's hanging out with us, whether we're a lizard, a cockroach, a dinosaur, or whatever the entity that we become. He's with us. Aham bija pradapita. He says, I'm the father of everyone. And within our own hearts, Krishna will let us know that He's always been there. He is there with us now, and He will always be there. And when you experience that, Krishna will let us know. That's that's on His side, not our side. We cannot force it. He'll let us know that He's always been there. And you feel it, you'll feel Krishna's love. And while you're going through this dark night of the soul, it gives you the strength to keep going. Krishna's got my back. Even though I'm going through a lot of pain and despair, Krishna has got my back. The repentance that we experience in this period in the desert squeezes humility from our hearts and washes away lust, anger, greed, all these things that just don't want to go. They're stuck to us like tar. And slowly but surely, the humble soul is starting to approach the Nishtha stage. This morning, as we were driving into the temple, Kevala Bhakti Prabhu was driving, and I was chanting and watching the beautiful breaking of dawn, where you could just see the first rays of sunlight, which, by the way, is really late here.
No daylight.
Oh, that's why. Okay, so yes, so the first rays of the sun were coming, and I was thinking of this beautiful verse or song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur where he says, this is where the Nishtha stage starts to come. He says, Jivere kalyana sadhanakam jagate ashiye madhuranam avidyati mera tapana rupe ridagagane viraje. In the previous verse, he says that Jivana anitya janahasa tahena navidha vipadabhar namashraya kori jatane tumi takha apanakaje. In the previous verse, he says that Jivana anitya, that the life that we're living is temporary and miserable. Take shelter, namashraya, make taking shelter of the holy name your kaja, your work. Make that your work. And then this verse he says that slowly the rising sun of the holy name starts to appear in your heart. Ridagagane viraje, this the beautiful sunrise is coming in your heart. This, my dear devotees, is the Nishtha stage, where Nama Ashraya, the shelter in the holy name, is awakening. Where chanting is no longer a chore, chanting now is a privilege and a beautiful experience where you feel like you want to keep going. And it's not yet ruchi, you don't have taste yet, but it's starting to awaken slowly. The sun is just starting to rise. You're starting to get a little bit of taste. What's preceding all of this is humility. Now the devotee is Trinadapi sunichena taroriva sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Humble as a blade of grass, tolerant as a tree, ready to offer all respect unto others, not wishing to get respect for himself. This soul has reached and is experiencing Nishtha. This soul gives respect to all, right? Amanina manadena. And they feel so appreciative of devotee association. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, both in his own song, Manasa Deha Geho, as well as quoting Stota Ratna by Ramanacharya, he says that the devotee in this stage is experiencing so much appreciation for devotee association that he says, don't make me a Brahma that's against you, Krishna. Make me a worm in the house of your devotee. I'm happy with that. That's the degree of appreciation for devotee association in the Nishtha stage. In the Nishtha stage, the devotee is not protesting, doesn't ask for his own needs like a tree, and he gives shelter to others like a tree will give fruits and flowers and be beaten down with rain and storms and scorching heat. It reminds me of one time, I hope I'm okay sharing this. One time we were on a call with Maharaj, Romapada Maharaj, and he shared with us, I'm going through one of the most toughest times of my life. And in that moment, he was instructing us and guiding us. And I was thinking, wow, that's like the tree, that is experiencing this scorching heat at the same time giving shelter to others. So you remember in the no taste, one of the asat trishna is material comfort. I don't want to displease others, a people pleaser. You can't say no. Here in the Nishtha stage, I'll share with you a verse, which is, now the devotee is no longer a people pleaser. O Lord, kindly bestow upon me mercy in the form of your sidelong glance, followed by the sweet sound of your flute. When you're pleased with me, even if others are displeased, it doesn't matter. If you're pleased with me and others are displeased, it doesn't matter. But when you're displeased with me, and if others are pleased, then what is the benefit for me? Hare Krishna. So, this is this Nishtha stage. I show a little rocket there. The devotee is fixed in humility, and they're finding shelter in Krishna's names. And we've come to the end of our journey for today. And of course, there's more stages of bhakti, but this is up to the Nishtha stage. So it's 3:38. I wanted to see if there's. Shall we do questions, or you want to do the exercise that's on the flip side of your page, of that journey map that I have? Let's do that. Why don't you spend 5 minutes just doing the exercise that's on the flip side of your handouts. If you don't have a copy of the handout, Kevala Bhakti Prabhu will provide you one. Yeah. There were 3 devotees that don't have it. We'll do 10 minutes for you. Together. So we'll take about 5 minutes for this. Hare Krishna. One more minute. And you can certainly do this at home as well. I'm locked in here. I know the content, but no, I haven't done it. Yeah. Yeah. Bypassing, yeah. I think that's why the desert idea, unless we have experienced the desert, you know you're not reached. Yeah. Here's a secret. This whole presentation is to help the Buddha see that there's a desert stage to go through. The whole point of this presentation is to share that part, actually, because people don't necessarily realize that.
It's a part of life. Devotion, you're just going along, it becomes a part of life, but that seriousness and enthusiasm. Thank you so much for coming and
Yeah, every time. Next level. Yeah. Hare Krishna, everyone. So, in the interest of time, if you have questions that you'd like to talk about, happy to chat with you after class. But I know you have a class, I'm so sorry. But what we would like to do, okay, is to give you an experience. Some of this can be very overwhelming sometimes. So, but what we want to do is now, we want to put our heart into taking shelter of Krishna's holy name. And Hari Hara Narayan Prabhu, if I got it right, is going to lead us in this beautiful song. It's a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but it's actually Bhaktivinoda Thakur writing as if Haridas Thakur is praying to Lord Chaitanya. It's a very special song, special for me, especially because I heard this in a Festival of Holy Name 15 years ago, and it's a prayer that I personally recite every day as part of my Japa practice. So I'd like to share this song with you. It's very beautiful. And He's going to sing it. I'm not going to explain it because we don't have time necessarily for it. But you can go through the translation as we're going through the song. Okay? So what I would like, if you're all willing, Harihar Prabhu, if you want to come towards facing the deities, and then all of us can crowd around him, and let this be like a collective, powerful, heartfelt prayer from our hearts to pray to Krishna to lift us up and pick and place us as an atom at his lotus feet. Okay? Thank you. Go up there, and we'll all gather around you, and we'll sing this song. And if you want a Japa book, who do you talk to? To you or? And if you like a Japa book, just talk to me. I'll sell it to you. Can you face the deities? Someone going to play harmonium or how will you do it? What? It's okay?
CD can play. And CD can play harmonium.
Yes. Mic, Prabhu, can the mic be on? The mic? Yeah. Red one. Up the volume. Let's give this our all.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. I know you for giving me an opportunity to glorify the holy name. So when I saw this is the first time I'm saying this. So when I saw this, it was so from the bottom of the heart, the prayers. And I was thinking, when Mataji asked me to sing this, so there are multiple Carnatic ragas. There is this raga called Chalu Kesi. Chalu is beautiful and Kesi is hair. So Krishna has beautiful hair. And this raga is explaining Krishna's beauty. So I'll sing that again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kripa kori nama रूपे अमर जिह्वाया निरंतर नाचा प्रभु हरि तव पाया कृपा करी नाम रूपे अमर जिह्वाया निरंतर नाचा प्रभु हरि तव Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Rakha Krishna Rama Gurta Rakha
Krishna Rama Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Jagat Janina Tava Avatara, Jagat Jana Bhaje Pura Paramita.
Jagat Janmani
तव अवतार जग जान माझे मोरे करो अंगीकार.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Achitya Sambandhari Tomaya Maya Yara Parinamavita Ekadamacharya.
Achedya sambandha tomaya maya bale namamrita adhamachaya.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai.
So we wait for Maharaj now, we should just stop here.
It's yours, yeah.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Rama Hare 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 Hare
Krishna everyone. Thank you all for joining us for the continuation of our Japa retreat. Enthusiasm, chanting enthusiasm, patience and confidence. We are very grateful to His Grace, Raghunandan Prabhu, for wonderful 2 sessions earlier. Lord Pila, and thank you for giving up the time as well. And we're going to be continuing now with one more class, this title Why. And that is going to be given by Maharaj. And then tomorrow morning we start with Mangala Aarti, and we'll be starting our chanting the 64-day round. Start tomorrow, Maharaj will probably say more. And then we have a short class at 7:30 in the morning. And then we continue with our chanting, and with Maharaj will explain details to keep more breath. And then we have classes in the afternoon as well tomorrow. This is going to be sharing reflections at 4 o'clock. This will be followed by a Gora Arati. And then we are going to have initiation and talk about Bhakti Granthas Thakur. It's his disappearance day tomorrow. So that's tomorrow. And then there'll be Prashadam after that. There's a whole program on Monday. And if you have not already done so, please RSVP to Tirupati and Leelavati Mataji. And if you have any other questions, please call. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, and I apologize for getting a bit late.
I asked this question before, but I'll ask it again. How many of you are attending a Japa retreat for the first time? Okay. Okay. What's he want?
We have to move the camera to open the menu.
Okay. We're good. You happy? If you're happy, we're happy. If you're not happy, we're not happy. You're not Krishna, but we're tuned into your being happy. How many who are present, we'll say it negative, how many who are present who have not participated in a Japa retreat and completed 64 rounds? How many have in that category? Oh, so many of you have. Fantastic. Okay. And those of you that raised your hand, that's to everybody. How many plan, your intention for tomorrow is to complete 64 rounds? Okay, we won't ask how many are not planning that. Something may come up. Who knows what may come up? But, something may come up and it may be difficult. But that, difficulty is you continue to make an effort as much as you can. 64 rounds. 64 rounds is a nice number. How does that... Anyway, we won't do the math. The 16 rounds has to do with one round, the 108 beads, how many names, and then 16 and 4 times 16. It's a vrata that matches a numerical threshold. And is there importance? Well, there must be importance, because otherwise, why would our previous acharyas and our founder acharya stipulate some fixed number? Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gananatibi. There's a nice phrase. There's a nice phrase from the Sad Goswami Ashtaka, the 6 Goswamis, and their 8 prayers to the 6 Goswamis, and they maintained Sankhya, Purvaka Nama, They counted. Did they need to count? No. Did they count? Yes. Because it's part of the practice even of liberated souls. Liberated souls set example for those that aren't liberated, and they would maintain that standard. So, for different reasons. One of those different reasons is, in the future there may be very elevated souls or persons imitating those who are very elevated souls and say, because I'm an elevated soul, I don't need to do numerical chanting. Amongst those 6 Goswamis, it is said that their vows of, like Raghunath Das Goswami resided at Radhakund, and every day, he didn't need to, but every day he kept a vrata, numerical vrata, of how many times he would pay obeisances to the various deities surrounding Radhakund, some fixed number, how many times he would offer obeisances to Vaishnavas, because he's Goswami, he's a senior most exalted personality, so people would offer their obeisances to him, and he would offer his obeisances to them. Numerical counting. And it wasn't, wasn't to be cute, that was his mood, and that was his vrata, and he maintained. Sanatana Goswami is said that he maintained his vows like lines in stone. So it's important. Following in the footsteps of exalted souls, to do as the exalted souls did. They set a standard, and we follow that standard, at least in principle. And the 64-round day is a very nice opportunity to increase. Of course, there's many other opportunities to increase. Daily increase, or on Ekadasi increase, or on appearance days of the Lord increase, or on Krishna Janmashtami and Gaur Purnima to increase, or, find a good excuse and increase. and do so is nice, to do so in a regulated manner, because regulation is one of the symptoms of goodness. And goodness enhances one's ability to access transcendence. So it's good to be good. It's good to be regulated. It's good to have some vratas that we maintain. And a good standard, a recommended standard of vratas for you is, could we do this at another time? It's like distracting. Thanks. He's passing out some documents so that later you can look at it. But if you give it to them now, then they'll get distracted and won't be paying attention. So there's a document that's connected with the topic today. And you get a document, I'll tell you, coming attractions. You get a nice document that I'm going to say a few things, and it says much more than what I'm going to say, because it's Jiva Goswami's Bhakti Sandarbha, a certain section, Bhakti Sandarbha. That's what you're going to hand out. Okay, so in some settings, there are for the 64-round day, there are persons that, for different reasons. Thank you. For different reasons, they are unable to complete 64 rounds, so we have a session for them, just like, they can pose their questions and interact and have some, support for their nice effort that wasn't 64 rounds worth. So there's respect for anyone that's here, and there's people that aren't here too. And so it gives, we like to give support. Now this, you saw this image on the screen before, and I like the image, that's why you're seeing it for the second time, third time actually. There's a person with his arms raised before Krishna, and the intention is, the artist's intention is it's Krishna's holy name, because that's the Yuga Dharma for this age, the primary recommended means for spiritual perfection, spiritual elevation and perfection. So chanting of the holy name, and the mood is a prayerful mood, calling out. And I titled this topic for today, Why? In part being inspired by a motivational speaker. There are probably some other names to describe what he does professionally, but there's his face, and there's his little diagram. He's got a marking pen in his hand, and the theme of his this little part of what he says is, what's more important than the how or the what's more important than the how or the what, at the center is the why. And the answer, this is my one way of explaining how this applies to Japa retreat. I mentioned it before, saying it again. It's not at all uncommon, it's common that people will ask the how question or the what question. And one of our sannyasis that consistently gives Japa retreats, he calls this the wheelbarrow. In your wheelbarrow you have tools, a Western expression. And there's this tool, there's that tool, the other tool, the other tool. And what I shared already is, someone may pick up a tool and use the tool for a while. But if the why isn't clear, then the affinity for that tool and the effectiveness because of the affinity for that tool subsides, and they forget the tool. And they go back to the space where, how to improve. And so my message is because the why isn't strong enough. And when the why is strong enough, any tool, there may be tools that are more effective for you or for another person or the next person. And that's fine, because we're different. But the why is very important question. So here's his little message in a different diagram. Why is at the center? So why bhakti? That's going to be one of the questions. Or, here's an anecdotal sharing. Not too long ago, I was in Sri Lanka. Anyone here been to Sri Lanka before? The reason for going to Sri Lanka was because it was the Chinese national holiday. It's the same by solar calendar every year. When Mao took over and kicked out the Tsar, and he became the head, he wasn't Mao Zedong. Communist Party took over. So they have a national holiday. Yay! So as we have a national holiday for Independence Day and Thanksgiving, and we have national holidays, they have a 7-day national holiday. They're workaholic people, but for 7 days they don't do work because it's a national holiday. Yay! And because it's a national holiday, it's become a tradition from my visits there to China, is we have a seminar, like a get-together on a particular topic, because the Chinese government is a little feisty, to say the least. It has become, a little risky to have gatherings for a whole week. in a venue with some number of people gathered together for religious purposes. So have something offshore, and a natural place to have is India, but the current relations between the two countries, there haven't been visas to go to India, and vice versa. India to China, there are no visas, so you can't go. So in Sri Lanka, there's no visa required for Chinese people to go. So we had our event there, and because at Sri Lanka, the purpose, the topic was Sundarakanda, natural. And it's a wonderful topic. I mean, talk about Hanuman for 7 days, fantastic. And we did, we covered a small section of Sundarakanda in those 7 days. And then the rest was everybody else came from wherever they came from. And we did, completed Sundarakanda. So could you adjust the volume? It's got a little ring back. So, about 6 times, I asked them, it wasn't like an exercise, but I asked them, please consider, why are you here? It's not just vacation time, because there's lots of things. So, why? And if you have a clear sense of why, guess what? You're going to hear and assimilate what you've heard better if you have a clear why than just you're a bump on a log. And you're passively hearing but not actively hearing. You get the idea. I'm using that as an example to let you know the why question is an important question. For anything, like why go to Sri Lanka? There's a party. We're going to be going there because there's a party. Anyway, so why? And then the what and the how, you apply the what, it becomes more significant. And it stays with you. It's like the topic that we had in the morning session, that when there's purity that comes from cleansing the unwanted things, the anartha things from the heart, and the awakening of our true consciousness from the chanting of the holy name, that consciousness continues throughout the day and the other activities that you do throughout the day when you're not necessarily with your hand in your bead bag chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, or your hands on your musical instruments and clapping while chanting in kirtan. Other times that when that consciousness is awakened, it continues just quite naturally. Because it's a natural process. Consciousness is awakening is a natural process. Now, here's another image that I like, so I'm sharing it. That person with his back to us, that's us, and we're looking out at, on the one side there's birth, and the other side there's death, and in between that's life. So we make choices, and it's good to make the what and the how choices based upon why. Like why, having received the human form of life, what's our mission? What's the purpose of life? And how to achieve it. Exactly the question that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Ramananda Roy. What's the goal of life and how to achieve it? So those are what and how questions, but why ask that question? Is it important? It's similarly why bhakti. Why engage in devotional service? I mean, it's nice. But we do engage in devotional service because it's nice. And there are other things you can say. It gives relief from distress. It does. And that's it. There's medications you can get relief from distress. And that's it. That's it? That's not it. So the why of bhakti is there's bhakti rasa. It's a nice concept of rasa. Rasa means taste. Just like juice, like fruits. When you take fruits, from fruits you can make juice. You can make pineapple juice, lemon juice, orange juice, mango juice, apple juice, and they have different flavors. Those flavors are rasa, or taste. So in fact, that's one of the English translations of the word rasa is juice. But the implication of the word juice is taste. So there's a taste, the pram drishtva nivartate, in the language of Bhagavad Gita. By raso varjam raso pyasya pram drishtva nivartate. The vishaya, same as the topic from the morning and yesterday evening. Vishaya, something's not right? Okay. I can do this too. You know the verse? Do you know the verse? Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinam rasosarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. That's a Bhagavad Gita verse. And it's, when there's a vishaya means object of the senses and indulging in objects of the senses. Vishaya. Vishaya vinivart nirhasya. For those who are dehinam, those who are embodied, that's a natural, insects, birds, animals, you name it. They have an affinity for enjoying. Mosquito wants blood. There's an affinity. They don't have to go to mosquito school to learn to draw blood. It's just natural, etc., etc., etc. Birds, anyway, without all examples. There's a natural affinity, and the human form of life is to rise above that natural affinity. So how is that made possible? Difficult unless there's a higher taste. And when there's a higher taste, that's the verse, then it's easy to let go of the lesser taste. So it's a bhakti principle, a higher taste. So there's a whole book, The Higher Taste. It's a cookbook. But it's not just foods, it's the way that you go about life, the principles that you live by. So there's a higher taste in not only the foods that you eat, but everything that you do, the consciousness that you carry while you are engaging in the objects of the senses, rather than in the modality of being the enjoyer of the object of the senses. You see the object as something that comes from the source, and you use that something in the service of the source of that something, because each something has that higher purpose. And if you have the higher consciousness, you see that will see the higher purpose. So there's a purpose for each thing in creation. And there's the misuse of that same something. So the higher taste is the reason why bhakti is bhakti rasa. There's a taste in using that which is from Krishna in service of Krishna. So we have, fortunately, we have some very systematic and very beautiful teachings in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu explaining the stages of bhakti. And as you see the verse, there's in pink letter, there's the first stage, Adau Shraddha, and there's the final stage, Prema. And by following those stages of bhakti, just like taking a seed and then fructifying the seed, putting the seed in an environment that can fructify, a little water, a little soil, and wait patiently, and the seed will sprout because there's life inside. And that the life inside is the Tao Shraddha. With bhakti, and you take that bhakti seed, bhakti lata, bija, and place it in sadhu sangha, and it will flourish. And then the different stages, up to the stage of prema. And in each of those stages, there is something that helps us go further. And then something that helps us go further. And something that helps us go further. And each stage, this is a teaching that comes from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Each of those stages, there's faith increases, the seed increases, the seed of faith increases. So he writes, the 9 stages of bhakti are simply descriptions of faith. Faith and faith and faith and faith and faith and faith, and by different labels or different nomenclature, indicating stages of development of faith up to the stage of prema. So the seed becomes mature in the stage of prema. And there's a taste in each one of those stages to not just like to allure us to go another step because we're getting closer to something that's a higher taste, but because it's a higher taste, we're attracted to that, and then the lesser is relinquished. So there is a nice little image, a drawing of a creeper. And using the same language as Madhurya Kadambini, there's a stage where the bhakti seed unfurls 2 leaves, Kleshagni and Shubhada. First 2. The kleshas are diminished and the auspicious is awakened. Simple. And then as it grows and grows, it can come to the stage of purity. So what attracts us, this is the why bhakti question. It's nice to say prema and, but that's high stage. And what does it mean? It's a stage of rasa. Here's a nice verse that Rupa Goswami rests his teaching on, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu teaching, is this verse from the Taittiriya Upanishad. No surprise, his description is given to him from Lord Chaitanya, but it's resting upon the Vedas. The first little phrase, Rasovaisaha. Rasovaisaha. Rasam hevayam labdhavanti bhavanti. When one understands the personality of Godhead, the reservoir of pleasure, Krishna, he actually becomes transcendently blissful. Or Rasovaisaha. So that's the common phrase that our acharyas refer to again and again, and it's good to know what's the full phrase, but where does it come from? Taittiriya Upanishad. And one of the topics I'd like to move on to is something we touched earlier, but we'll just expand a little bit more. It happens sometimes where in the beginning, the trajectory of the beginning goes zoom. And after some time, slackening. This term slackening is an English translation of something that Bhaktivinoda Thakur used. The slackening, his phrase, it has to do with the Sharanagati concept, or the surrender, Sharanagati. Sometimes the submission unto Krishna slackens. And the taste, the rasa, is there when there's extending towards the object. So there's subject, there's object, and then there's the verb. The connection between subject and object, and that's bhakti. Or the activities in the mood of devotion to the Supreme. Activity is of the soul moves matter, but if there's the attitude of wishing to be in service to the Supreme, then that's bhakti. That was our definition this morning, and always. The heart of bhakti is the aspiration that Krishna should be pleased. And there's standards by which we can understand whether or not Krishna is pleased. One of the basic standards is from Shastra. Krishna is very expressive about what pleases him. And other than that, doesn't hold the same weight, and there's some things that are prohibited. And that's not pleasing to do, they're prohibited. So you do that which is pleasing, and you avoid the not pleasing. The path is quite simple. But then at some point there may be some slackening. And then comes the why question. There's the what and the how, but there's the why. So I'm going to make some reference now, this document that you'll get later because someone's going to hand you a document. I meant it to be a digital document so you can carry it with you. But it's printed, so you take a printed copy and somehow you get a digital copy. Because it's something you can refer to later. When you don't have the printed copy, you can open your computer and there it is, or your phone or whatever you do, and there it is. And it's an excerpt from Bhakti Sandarbha. And the section, it spans a number of, it's called Anuchhed, or like little section texts, text number 153, Anuchhed, that's his term, because that's a technical term of a Sandarbha, just a division. And he, Jiva Goswami, is explaining bhakti in Bhakti Sandarbha with scriptural references. And there may be this slackening dynamic in bhakti. And he asks the question, why? Why slackening? And then he gives answers. The answer he gives, it's the fruit of past life and perhaps this life, where there have been some offenses. No, offenses can be, that's a strong word. Offenses can be unintentional, and they don't carry the same weight as the intentional. You step on somebody's toes and you say, gee, I'm sorry, I felt I stepped on your toe, I hope it's okay. It's much lighter than, someone that goes out of the way to step on your toe. The consequence, not the pain, but the consequence to the person who steps on someone's toes. Or you act in a way that's not to be done. And there are things that are not to be done that are in the category of sin, and there are things that are not to be done that are in the category of offense. And they're different. The consequences are different. And the removal is much lighter for removal of sin than removal of offense. So this little section that in the Bhakti Sandarbha is describing the symptoms that one who has made some past offense, this life or previous lifetime, and they're reaping or they're exhibiting the character of that past offense. And that it's difficult because offense and the consequences of offense, specifically, the consequences of offense are not easily removed. So what do you do if you're slackening in bhakti, or your chanting is starting to go down, or your affinity, etc., ways of describing? What happens when that's diminishing or slackening? there's the why, and then there's the what to do. So the why has to do with symptoms of some previous offense. So here's this little list of 5 items is what you're going to get when you get your little document from Bhakti Sandarbha. Crookedness. No, there's the opposite. It's, satyam. It's satyam doesn't just mean I cannot tell a lie. Cultured people, anyone with a system of values will, that's a value. Don't lie. But it's not just don't lie, it's deception. Deliberate deception. Deliberate deception that doesn't have Krishna at the center. I'm mentioning that because, a classic example from Mahabharata was Yudhisthira was known that he's a Kshatriya, but he was always truthful. When he was, Anakundundubi, that's not him, it's Vasudeva, but, truthful. Acknowledged as being, very pure and non-deceiving others, intentionally or otherwise. Presenting oneself dishonestly, not just speaking a lie. There are persons that are habitual liars. And they don't even know they're doing it because it's just so habitual. And though it's not pleasing. Not pleasing to Krishna, that's for sure. It's not pleasing to people who hear that what they know is not truthful. But it's not just words, it's behaviors. And again, this point, something that's inside comes out. So why is that tendency there? The document that you receive has some examples from Scripture, because that's Jiva Goswami's method. He doesn't just write extemporaneously. He's following statements of Scripture and extracting. So, kautilyam, crookedness. And he makes a connection, we'll see at the very end of the list of 5 is pride. And his indication is crookedness, this number 1 in the list of 5, is rooted in number 5. That, why does someone, because they want recognition in this way, that way, or the other way. And so, because pride is there, they want the recognition, prideful kind of recognition. So they deceive in order to present themselves as if they're worthy of recognition. And crooked is not true. Much more, common, much more is a person that's humble. And although they're eminently qualified, they present themselves otherwise. That's Vaishnava. We find many, so many examples. Many. Pridelessness and humility are almost the same thing. Just because it happened recently, I was sharing with a number of devotees. There was a little document put in the background that was a colorful display of a verse, a stava, a prayer by Raghunath Das Goswami. And he was praying to Srimati Radharani. But he was characterizing himself as, this and that and the other, self-deprecation. But it wasn't a low self-esteem kind of self-deprecation. It was his humility. And the humility of a spiritually elevated person can be embarrassing. How can they? But it's not cosmetic. They're not portraying themselves so that people will go, oh, that this fellow is really humble or she is really humble. They're really humble. And they feel this way about themselves. They're not qualified. And they have this obstacle and the other obstacle blocking their way from pleasing, in this case, because Raghunath Das Goswami had great attachment to Radhakund and Srimati Radharani in Govardhan Hill. Profound. So I'm not qualified, and here's my disqualifications, A, B, C, D. So crookedness is the opposite. You portray yourself falsely, dishonestly, because because of pride. I want recognition. And that's a fruit, or a byproduct, or a symptom of past offense. He moves on. You'll get this document that covers these verses. Ashraddha, Shraddha, and its opposite, Ashraddha. And that real faith is in transcendence, faith in Krishna. And how do we know Krishna? Through Shastra. So, my lack of faith in Krishna is manifest, a symptom of not full faith in Shastra. Not believing in the Lord's name, himself, his devotee. Like in this document that you receive, the example is given of Duryodhana or Shishupal, or someone that's really out there. Even he Duryodhana, at a certain circumstance, he wanted to impress Krishna because he knew Krishna was partial to the Pandavas, and the Pandavas were his arch enemies. So he wanted to win Krishna over. So he made this big thing, and Krishna knew it was dishonest. It's crooked. So he's no thank you. You invite me to have a meal with you. Prabhupada, the Mahabharata says, Krishna says, there are two reasons when one will accept meal. One is they're hungry. I'm not hungry. Another is, even if you're not hungry, where there's love, then you may. But in this case, there's no love, so no thanks. I'll go where there's love. So he went to, Vidura's home. And Vidura wasn't there. So his wife was so excited, Krishna came, and she gave him banana peels. And Krishna ate the banana peels, yummy, because of love. Because of love. That's a natural. So deception isn't attractive, and Krishna isn't deceived by distraction. But lack of faith in who is Krishna. Even he showed this universal form. Arjuna saw the universal form, and he understood what it is. But Duryodhana saw the universal form, and that's not how it registered with him. Something else registered with him. Altogether, something else registered with him. He had no faith. Ashraddha. It's a byproduct or a symptom of some past offense. And the offense mentioned is he had animosity towards Arjuna, particularly the Pandavas, but Arjuna in particular. So that's an offense to Krishna. The offense to the devotee is the offense to Krishna. Again, we have this document, you can read it over. It's not only academic and edifying, but it's very logical, and it's helping us to understand. The purpose of all this is to help us understand why slackening might be happening in our spiritual life or bhakti life. where initially it's, and then something happens and it starts to diminish. I call it the sine curve. There are periods when the enthusiasm is higher and then it wanes and it goes back up again and it wanes. That's natural. It's natural in terms of material conditioning. It's quite natural. But the spiritual position is it doesn't slacken. So the slackening has these reasons. Bhagavan Nishtha Chavaka. Nishtha, you know the meaning. Nishtha? No? Faith. Nishtha. It's one of the stages of bhakti. When anarthas are eradicated substantially, not 100%, so the stages of bhakti, Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha. When anarthas, unwanted things, are largely gone, what's left? Nishtha, a stage. It's a stage. It's not the final stage, but steady. Unsteady is due to the anartha thing. And then steady is when anarthas are largely diminished, not completely gone yet, but it's because it's a stage. Nishtha. So Bhagavan, Nishtha, Chavaka. Chavaka, lack of focus or loss of focus. And that's because this distraction thing, we are absorbed in other things. We all know what distraction is. We may have some experience of being undistracted for a little while. Tomorrow, may you become undistracted for at least a little while during your 64 rounds. And sometimes those periods of being undistracted are longer. And then when it's longer, as you become more proficient in chanting, it does stay longer because there's less to be cleared. The unwanted is less, and therefore more likely steady or absorbed. Because after Nishtha is asakti. One becomes attached. Then bhava and prema. Obsessive absorption in unfavorable things. So that's a residual effect of past stuff back there, of not just sin, but offense. And offense builds more offense. It once stuck in that zone, it's hard. Because there's a tendency, and tendency repeats itself. Bhakti, Saitilya. There's Kautilyam, that first one, Saitilya, laziness. Lack of effort and enthusiasm. There's the enthusiasm word again. For sadhana itself. For sadhana, it's the means to make the connection with Krishna restored. And lack of enthusiasm for the means of making the connection with Krishna restored. Lack of effort, lack of enthusiasm. So that's that same first topic, utsahan, looked at through a different lens, and a different set of Sanskrit words, but it's the same principle. Lack of enthusiasm, lack of effort, lack for sadhana, the means of purification. And then finally, this pride one. Pride, when it becomes a matured kind of pride, is pride in bhakti. That is, who's at the center? Krishna, right? I'm an advanced devotee. Krishna's really at the center, right? And if recognition that I'm not at the center, come from someone other, some other devotee, I'm become unhappy, or may say and do things that are not nice because of pride. So that this is a stage. This is a nice little section, but it's all in response, specifically in Bhakti Sandarbha, it's in response to why is there a slackening in bhakti. Again, he says, Jiva Goswami writes, there are many reasons. Amongst those many reasons or symptoms, there's 5 that are particularly prominent. And he lists them and expands the explanation of them. That's the document that you receive. So what to do? That's what we're doing here. Sankalpa, to restore rasa. Now, what's the meaning of sankalpa? There's the material and there's the spiritual. With everything, there's material, spiritual. So supposing, in a formal way, so I'm a college kid, or I'm a high school kid planning to go to college. And I want to, I have a career plan. And the career plan is, fill in the blank. So I want to go to this college and study these subjects so that I can, that's my sankalpa. I want to develop an ability, a career, something. That's on, just 100% material side of things. Then supposing there's a yajna. This is described by Jiva Goswami very nicely, that why Vyasadeva divided the Vedas into 4. This is in Tattva Sandarbha. Why Vyasadeva divided the Vedas into 4? What was the purpose of doing that? And he describes that the Vedas themselves are filled with jewel-like teachings. And in order to help in this age where people are have less capacity to discern which jewels to use, he made some boxes for, this jewel, that jewel, the other jewel, depending upon the type of sankalpa that somebody wants. So they can't. So because previous ages, they just reach in the box, and then if you tell the brahmana, I want wealth. Okay, here's a yajna you can do to get wealth, karmakanda. Vast portion of the Vedas is that, karmakanda. Or I want a good husband or a good wife. So there's a yajna for that. There are certain mantras, procedures, etc., etc. So he, Vyas, made it easier for the brahmanas in the future that wouldn't have that same, they could just reach into the big box and take out all the necessary mantras and perform the yajna. Because the person who is engaging the brahmana must tell the brahmana, this is my sankalpa. So according to sankalpa, he'll conduct a yajna. And the yajna is to fulfill that sankalpa. It's karma kanda portion of the Vedas. And here's a very interesting example. Janamejaya, the son of Maharishi Parikshit, was so upset that his father was killed by Takshaka that he wanted to kill all the serpents on the surface of the earth. So he engaged brahmanas to do that, and all the serpents come flying through the sky and landing at the yajna, because the sankalpa was rid the surface of the earth of all serpents. And it worked until it was stopped, because, my dear Janamejaya, you're the king, and I understand you're upset, but all the serpents didn't do this. It's a little bit like Dhruva when he was angry that his brother was killed by the yakshas. So he started slaughtering all the yakshas. Swayambhuva tapped him on the shoulder and said, Dhruva, wasn't all the yakshas. Stop. That was it. He stopped. But through Vedic process, sankalpa is very important. So for us, having a sankalpa is very important. One of the activities, not always, but a common activity at Japa retreats is a sankalpa exercise. So I'm going to do a little bit like that with all of you. You know, in some cases it's like pause and write something down. Like the why question. For tomorrow, there's 64 round day. What's the sankalpa for you tomorrow? What's the intention? What is it that you wish to accomplish in the course of your 64 rounds? And if the why is clear, it'll help you stay focused. If the why isn't clear, you'll have your experience will be more the meandering mind experience. And we're very familiar with meandering mind experience. What to speak of 64 rounds? It's easy. Try it. I don't recommend you try it. I recommend sankalpa. And some very nice appreciation, natural appreciation is I'm reading, or actually I'm listening to a voice recording of Mukunda Maharaj's book, Miracle at 26 Second Avenue. It's a biography of what he did and those who were in his company, the other Vaishnavas, in establishing 26 Second Avenue, then establishing a temple in San Francisco, and then establishing a temple in London. Because Prabhupada wanted that. That was for them. That was the why. Prabhupada wanted it. Now, why did Prabhupada want it? There's a why behind that one. But Prabhupada wanted it, and that was, that was it. And that was the fuel in their tank. That's what that propelled them forward. And so they got to London, and they were in a rented place that was like a big warehouse and so forth and so on. It was wasn't nice. It wasn't the temple in London place. And they tried to get things going, and it wasn't really going. They tried what they did in New York City, in San Francisco, and it was a different venue. British people are different. And they weren't getting traction. So they came up with this little idea. Let's have a big event. Invite VIP people. So maybe because it seems like in England, knowing people is really important to get stuff done. Whereas in the West, it was just, you do something that's attractive. And anyway, there's a different formula. So they got this bright idea. I'm just sharing this because it connects with this sankalpa idea or concept. They decided to have an event and invite people that they knew and people whose names they had heard of but they didn't know. And one of the invitations they sent was to the Beatles. And much to their surprise, they got a reply from George Harrison, who they had never met, he had never met them. But he replied, indicating, there's a spark. And the indication was, sorry, but I won't be able to attend. Something very short, but enough as important and busy and etc. as he was, he responded because he had an interest. And that interest grew in the association of devotees and Prabhupada and so forth and so on. And it grew and it grew and it grew and it became, to the point where when the Beatles, most influential people perhaps in the world during that era, he started writing his own music. And as you know, My Sweet Lord, the lyrics, it's his heart along with the musicality. I really want to know you. I really want to see you. I really want to be with you. It was like that. He was calling out from his heart. That was his sankalpa. An exceptional person. I mean, VIPs don't usually display the inside like this. He did. And he knew how to do it effectively. It's 20 after 5. I'm going to tell a couple little stories. Here's one little story. At a certain point in time, his interest in Krishna Bhakti had grown, and he liked Jamuna's cooking. Everyone will like Jamuna's cooking, and he liked her voice. And he said to her, this is like, all 6 of them, she was like the lead singer often and in subjects. And she told me this. He asked her, Jamuna, your voice is so amazing. If you like, I can make you famous. I know how to do it. And she said, let me think about it. The next day she said, no. Here's $1 million or $10 million or whatever. No, thank you. I don't want fame. I don't want that lifestyle. I just want to sing for Krishna. Then he said, okay, let's make a recording and you can sing for Krishna. Because I know how to do that too. So they did it. And it became a #1 record in all of Europe and then in America. You're just singing Hare Krishna with that gong at the end. Maybe some of you don't know about that. It was a big thing. It was #1 for months. And that's in that era, that was like, you can't go higher than that. That's the highest you can go. And then the flip side was, Jamuna singing the prayers to the 6 Goswamis. So, in her angelic voice. Because he wanted that sound vibration to go out. There's more. I'll keep moving. Here's one more. At a certain point in time, he was a witness on a witness stand because a burglar broke into their house and tried to steal. So he had a bedroom upstairs and he heard the burglar downstairs, and he came to the edge of the railing, looking over the railing, and saw the burglar. And he wanted to protect his wife and not just like protect the guy from stealing stuff. So what did he do? At the top of his lungs, and this was a testimony in a trial when they caught the burglar, and he was called to be a witness. So this is his testimony in a courtroom. He screamed the Hare Krishna mantra at the top of his lungs and ran down the stairs, and the burglar ran from the house. It was like the man had some weapons in his hand, and George didn't have weapons in his hand. He had the Maha Mantra, and the man ran from the house. He had such faith in the holy name, risk his life to protect his wife, not his possessions, to protect his wife, with faith in the holy name. He was an amazing personality. And other recordings along the same line. So his faith, his sankalpa was, as his songs say, and his life. So he's an exceptional Vaishnava. He never received Diksha because there was some discussion between the two of them, Prabhupada and George Harrison, and Prabhupada said, you can do much more this way. So his interest is in expanding the message, the sound vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra. And George could do that. He felt, Prabhupada made this decision, he could do that more effectively if he wasn't his disciple, but just as a musician. And it's, it's coming from him. Amazing. So, let us do this little sankalpa exercise. Some of you have paper, I see. Everyone has a phone or 2 or 3. So literally, you'll take 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and write something. So it's like, your roadmap for tomorrow, your sankalpa for tomorrow. And I'll stop speaking. And I'll give you a hint. This will also be circulated. This is going to be my sankalpa. It's a private, open secret. You saw this before. You'll receive a copy. You don't have to take pictures. You'll receive a copy. Digital copy. And, it's just be present with Krishna, with his holy name, and with the understanding Krishna's present with you. You're with Krishna, you make that commitment, he's with you. He's with you anyways, but you make that commitment, then it becomes consciousness rather than just, existential. Okay. Okay, there's enough heads that have gone up, so that means we can move on. I want to do 2 more things in the time that we have together. One is see if there's some discussion topics that you'd like to bring up. And then the final is, there's a little recording of Srila Prabhupada chanting Japa. And we can chant Japa with Srila Prabhupada for a little while. It goes on for more than a little while, but that's okay. Just practical application of our sankalpa. So any comments or questions? Okay.
Two questions. The first is seeking clarification in the first section where you're talking about how slackening of bhakti happens based on Jiva Goswami's explanation, towards the end of your talk on that section you were speaking, you said that Jiva Goswami presents several reasons why slackening can happen, but these are 5 prominent ones?
Yes. And he points to the final one, number 5,
Right.
pride. And that, so pride is behind all of them. You know, a particular characteristic of false ego.
So, my question was, can slackening happen not just because of, or not necessarily because of offense, either in this or previous life, but also just because of conditioning? Like
Yeah, but that's what's conditioning. You know, conditioning is a makeup of this and previous lives. Influences acting on us and choices that we make. And thus, you'll say somebody, you know, bad association, there can be conditioning due to bad association with, you know, from scripture and from our own practical experience. Someone can go away through conditioning and tendencies. It's okay. So they're not separate.
The other question is related to sankalpa. George Harrison's sankalpa is really sweet and
Yeah, it is.
delightful. As one progresses, or assuming one progresses, does the sankalpa become, can still be sort of at this sort of, you know, what I'm getting at is, does it sometimes become more specific, like
Yeah.
specific form of the law that you wish
Yeah.
to see, specific rasa that you'd like
Yes,
to see?
yes. The sankalpa can be certainly refined. It would be natural that it does become refined, but you know, with at least with some direction to start with, away from and towards, accepting, rejecting, and accepting. Okay. Yes, up front.
Have patience of you, Maharaj. This question I was supposed to ask yesterday, but we ran out of time.
Okay.
So the question is like, having faith in Krishna's name.
How to?
Having faith in Krishna's name.
Having faith in Krishna's plan.
Name.
Name, okay.
And we do hear and we do hear from all great devotees that Krishna's name is not different from Krishna.
That's a big realization, isn't it?
Can you please explain in detail?
Oh, explain it. It's a fact, then there's the realization of the fact. So, abhinna dvam nama namino. There's scripture that says, abhinna tvam nama namino. There's a relationship of non-difference, abhinna, between the nama and the nami. In that, because of the absolute nature of Krishna. Because of the absolute nature of Krishna, there's non-difference between the sound, just like this vachaka discussion yesterday, vachaka, and the person. The sound and the person are the same. On the absolute platform. It's not true for the material platform. So the principle, supposing I'm not on the absolute platform yet, some of us. So then what? Then that's a question of faith. Faith resting upon what? Shastra. Can I place my faith in Shastra? So back to these 5, not having faith in the Shastra, then, I'm not going to progress so nicely, as nicely as if I have faith. Supposing I have faith but not realization. Most of us. Some faith, but not complete faith. Yet. Because complete faith means the absolute position has been achieved. Not just the practice, but it's been achieved. I have realization but I don't have the realization yet. But I have faith. And then faith is variable. The sine curve. So then now, what to do? That's the why, then what to do. Corresponding to one's faith, one continues. And let me take up those activities that can nourish and nurture my faith, starting with sadhusanga. And striving for sincerity in the application of that which I have received through, just like what we're doing today, and then what we're going to do tomorrow, and then what we're going to do the next day, and the next week, and the next so forth. So carry with you that association. It's different, but it's a little bit similar, related to the question Jivan asked, or question raised about inclination propensities. Here's a phrase that Prabhupada used often. There's this English phrase, practice makes perfect. And then there's another, by you practice something, it becomes second, this is Prabhupada's phrase, it becomes second nature. Like a parent training a child. The ideal parent is modeling, not just telling, but by the child seeing, and then it becomes part of their life. Because practice, it becomes, one's second nature becomes the same as first nature, your actual nature, by practicing something. But through association, you practice naturally. Here's a nice example I like, is Prabhupada describing in his childhood, his father was a devotee of Radha Govinda, and he worshipped Radha Govinda deity. So his son would sit there and watch his father worship Radha Govinda. And at a certain point, his son asked, "Can I have?" And then, so he became a devotee of Radha Govinda. It becomes second nature by practice. Becomes second nature. It's just easy. You don't have to think about it. You think about it in a Krishna conscious way, but you don't have to like riding a bicycle. That's a motor skill, but when you first learn to ride a bicycle, it's awkward. Or first learn to drive a car, it's awkward. And then it becomes second nature. That's motor skills. And then there's consciousness skills. You practice at something because especially when it's inherently transcendental, like the name of Krishna and the person are non-different. And so that's why I like this one. Whoops, where'd it go? So be present, and with faith, I don't have the realization yet, but I have faith that the name and Krishna are the same. This is your question. And by being present with that fact and being present with the name, who is not different than Krishna, Krishna is there.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So Maharaj, we saw that Satyam is not being truthful without Krishna in the center. So does that mean that it's okay to not be truthful when Krishna is in the center?
Yes. But who's going to be the judge of who's at the center? Like Yudhisthira, he hesitated. Etc.
And the other thing is, so all these 5 that we saw, or from our past life or from this life?
Both. Either or both.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So the Sankalpa was just a really good segue from the morning where you said intention is the key.
Yes, yes,
Really,
yes.
You came at the right segue. I had a question, Maharaj. You've heard that the mind has 2 things. One is Sankalpa and Vikalpa. Right?
Yeah.
Proposes and then disposes.
Yes.
So my question was, the Sankalpa we are taking, is it coming from our mind, from our intuition?
It can be. It can come from your mind.
Okay.
And it can come from your heart. Now, how are you going to discern? Who's at the center? That's how you discern. Same question as you asked before. Same answer. And then, how do I know if Krishna's the center? Stick around. Let some time pass and see, is Krishna still the center? Is Krishna still the center? Is there consistency? And then when it's consistency, then Krishna's at the center. And for most of us, it's not. Well, it's okay. You start somewhere with a sincere effort. I want to get to where Krishna at the center. And I'm not there yet. So sometimes not. Sometimes not. Flickering. Behind you?
So, extension of these 2 questions. Like in Sankalpa, right? Sometimes we have our Sankalpa, which is maybe technical or very small. Versus when you see an ideal Sankalpa, right? Like for example, my Sankalpa could be just get out of some miseries, falling in hell. But when you see the ideal Sankalpa, like George Harrison had it. So do we transition or adopt to that, or we stick to our Sankalpa for now and then evolve later?
My answer to a question like this is, it depends. And what does it depend upon? What are the variables? It's good to be honest, this is where I am. I'm not there. I can look up and say, wow, but I'm not there. So let me be honest. And then the honest, one of the ways of measuring is there's sustainability. I'm able, because it's honest, to stay with it. And that's a real sankalpa. Some people have ones that are real high and it's like, it fizzles. And then they feel discouraged. We all know some people like that. So, it depends. That was sustainable. And then if you take this one, and you know that there are further stages, Kabe habe bodo se di namar. When will that day be mine? When? But I'm not there yet. So let me have my sankalpa that matches where I am, at the same time aspiring. And that's how progress is made. Be honest. And then okay. Over here. Behind you.
Krishna Maharaj. So my question is, at least personally, I feel that it's really easy to get attached to the number of rounds that we chant and feel a sense of accomplishment, especially when tomorrow it's referred to as
64 round day.
And when we take the Harinam vows, people vow that they'll chant minimum 16.
Yes.
I feel that personally, on the rare occasion that I do get absorbed in my chanting, the moment I reach the head beat or I have to move my counter to signal that I chanted another round, I get pulled out because the mind automatically, very quickly feels a sense of achievement and relief.
Very quickly, you speak quickly. Very quickly what?
So,
just the last part, not the whole thing.
Yeah, after one round is chanted, and I have to move my counter beat to signal that I finished the round.
Okay.
My mind immediately gets pulled out and starts feeling a sense of achievement.
That's okay. Just be honest. And achieve. And know from Scripture, that's not going to satisfy me. But that's where I am. And then what's going to satisfy me? That's sustainable, something I can connect with and stay there for a while. So you be stanes to takshutikatam tanavat, this correction of this 10:14:3. The goal of life and the means to achieve it. Stanes to tak, stay in your position. Don't. It's okay. Feel a sense of achievement that you move your counter beads this many times, and more times tomorrow than other days, and that's fine. And is there, look inside, is that satisfaction? Something. Certainly something. Yay, 64 rounds, yay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So, sang satir haritoshanam. One feels satisfied when Krishna is satisfied. Krishna doesn't want just numbers, Krishna wants our heart. But, for the time being, I am where I am. So numbers are important. So Krishna, please accept my numbers. Okay. Yes.
I don't know if that's an appropriate question, but I'd like to ask.
Interesting preamble.
If you could share your experience marriage.
It's not appropriate. Anyone else? Back there.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, as you mentioned about Sankalpa, and one of the devotee mentioned about Vikalpa, and I was thinking personally that my mind, even though I want to do it and I'm very enthusiastic, I would like to do it, but my mind wanders so much and it is so hard to bring it back to my Sankalpa. If you have any...
Make it, just, the verse from Bhagavad Gita. I'll remind you of the verse in Bhagavad Gita that you already know. From whatever and wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, bring the mind back under the control with the capital S, self. So the sankalpa it's that direction-giving force, shakti or vector, that's going to help you accomplish however many times. How many times? That's however many times, and number of times. But you bring it back to what? So to a sustainable, purposeful, personal sankalpa. And the more you have the why, the more you have the sankalpa, the easier it will be to bring the mind back however many times it takes to bring the mind back. It's like, it's like training a dog or a wild horse or something. The wild horse is wild, but the wild horse can be trained. Bucking bronco, he doesn't want, get off my back. So, but you by a good trainer, and inherent is the ability to be trained. Your mind also. The one is diseased and the other is healthy. And healthy and natural it's there, it's just the diseased is the other. So move towards health and away from the diseased state.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Okay. One last question. Right up front, this young lady in the front row.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So my question is there any way to find pure happiness on this world? And how?
Yes.
And how do you achieve that pure happiness?
Yeah. That the real happiness or pure happiness is otherworldly, but it can be found in this world by making an otherworldly connection. Say it the other way. There is no, in this world, Bhakti Siddhanta, there's no love in the material world. And people go, what? I love my wife, I love my children, I love my dog, I love my money, I love my, stuff. But that's not what love is. So what's love? And it's approachable by descending mercy and by making proper connection. So Sanskrit here, but specific to your question, aside from love, is Hari Toshanam. You've heard, the verse? There, you can look it up. But Canto 1, Chapter 2, there are three verses, those early set of verses of Canto 1, Chapter 2, where Yenatma, Atma, the meaning, self, soul, Atma. The soul becomes satisfied. Yenatma su prasidati. Very satisfied. And there's a method, even in this world, but that's connected with the Supreme. And there isn't otherwise. Real happiness. It's flickering. Now you see it, now you don't. Happiness becomes distress quickly. Okay? Does that answer your question?
One more thing, is there a way that we can go to Krishna even if we don't need it?
Even if we don't what?
Is there a way we can go to Krishna even if we don't reach the end of the life cycle?
Even if you don't what?
Don't reach the end of life cycle.
End of the life cycle. Can you go to Krishna even in your present lifetime? That's your question? Before death? Yeah. Sure. But that's what back to Godhead means. A or B? Back to Godhead is you change your dress. B, back to Godhead means you change your consciousness. So it's change of consciousness. You can go back to Godhead in this lifetime. Before you give up your body, you can be with Krishna. That's back to Godhead. Is it doable? Yeah, that's the invitation. It's certainly doable. It's not a false advertising. It's meant for us. It's our healthy state. Okay? Two very nice questions. Thank you. And the last part is I'm going to invite you to get your bead bag or beads, or you just use your fingers if you don't have your bead bag with you, because we're just going to chant. And we're going to chant with Prabhupada, because you're going to see in the upper left corner that little horn? That means there's an embedded recording. And it's Prabhupada chanting. And the place where this recording was made was across the street from 26 2nd Avenue. Before there was 26, there was 61. And there was an upstairs place where the devotees chanted. And it had assemblies. And you'll hear Prabhupada stopped the chanting, and in a stern voice, he says, "Sit properly." The devotee that said he was slouched over leaning against, the altar, chanting, in a slouched sack of potatoes kind of posture, Prabhupada stopped and, instructed sternly, sit properly. So that's the place where this recording was made. New York City, 61 2nd Avenue. And this says matchless gifts, but that's okay. And we'll just do this for a little while. Experiment today on what your sankalpa for tomorrow is going to be, and see how well you can stay with it. And if you get distracted, like many of us may get distracted, bring it back to your sankalpa. Because the mouth is going, and that was the intention behind. And it'll help stabilize the mind. Oh boy. I think here we go again. Chanting swiftly. Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare
No signal. 1. Please check the power of the external devices and cable connection status. 2. Press the input button on the TV remote to change the input. Rev up. Mute. 80.